Today, I'm speaking about something that may seem contradictory to the advice that maybe you've been given about letting go of unwanted thoughts and emotions and behaviors. And I'm curious, has any of that advice ever truly worked for you? If you're like many people, you may have discovered that the harder you try to stop something or to let something go, that the tighter the grip is, it seems to hold on. Yeah, in fact, it seems to come back even stronger, at least in my experience. So please stay with me here because in this video, I'm going to show you why you simply can't just decide to let something go that's unwanted or try to use your willpower to push through unwanted habits. And please know, I most certainly honor the very real desire that you have for something to change, because that desire is valid too. In fact, it may be pointing to something that's very important. But today, I'm not speaking to your mind that collects information and tries to figure things out. I'm speaking to the part of you that already knows. It's a part that's beneath your beliefs. It's beneath your fear. It's beneath the anxiety. It's beneath all the survival strategies that are deep inside of you. It's the part of you that recognizes truth the very moment that it's revealed. And I am speaking to your soul. And your soul doesn't need more information. It recognizes truth. What needs your loving attention are the parts of you that forgot, the parts that learned fear and protection, the parts that have been working so hard to keep you safe. And that's why I want to talk to you about something most people misunderstand, that whole concept of letting go. So if you've noticed that the more you do need to let something go, the harder it becomes, and the more urgently you want to release difficult emotions like fear and guilt, resentment, grief, or even anxiety, the tighter it just seems to hold on, well then please stay with me, because I'm actually going to use the language of your soul to deepen your experience of this very important message. I want to tell you another story about the tree. If you're new to my stories, I speak of the little roots that represent the fear-based beliefs and the protective patterns that live deep within our subconscious mind. Those hard-working little roots that spent years trying to keep this tree alive. The little roots that learned to pull harder when they sensed danger. The little roots that believed they were responsible for protecting the entire tree. Well, one day, the gardener discovered something extraordinary. She discovered the deeper taproot was the source of life that had always been there. See, this deeper root of unconditional love had her mesmerized. And she was so relieved to discover that she wanted the little roots just to relax. She kept saying, just trust, let go. You're safe now. But all the little roots, they wouldn't let go. And the harder she pushed for release, the tighter they seemed to hold on. And then the gardener became frustrated. After all, she now knew the truth. She knew there was a deeper root. She knew love was the real power. So then why didn't the little roots just relax? Well, then she saw something that she had never seen before. The little roots were not holding on because they were stubborn. They were holding on because they still felt alone and afraid. And then the gardener realized that she had become so focused on the deeper root that she had unintentionally abandoned the little roots. She wanted them to trust, but she had stopped relating to them. In fact, she had actually gone back to rejecting them. It was like they were wrong and love was right. Well, then suddenly she understood something that changed everything. The little shadow or the little roots is where relationship and connection is broken. The fears, the protective emotions, the survival strategies, they're not the problem. They are the place where connection has been lost. And relationship is the bridge to connect, not information or insight, not even spiritual truth. It's relationship. The gardener realized that she'd been trying to go around the little roots to reach the taproot. But you know, the shortest path to the taproot, it's not around the little roots. It's through relationship with them. So she stopped expecting them to let go or believing that she needed to let them go. It was quite the opposite. She stopped trying to convince and correct them. She stopped trying to transcend them. Instead, she knelt beside the tree and she imagined the little roots below. And for the first time, she became curious and caring. And she asked the little roots to please tell her, what do you need from me in order to feel safe? What are you trying to do for me by holding on? What are you protecting? And you know, little by little, the little roots revealed their secrets to her. Like one little root whispered, I thought I had to keep everyone safe from harm. And then another one said, I thought if I stopped worrying, something terrible would happen. And then another one quietly admitted, I thought love meant carrying everything all by myself. And then another one quietly whispered, I just want to matter and to be heard. And the gardener just listened. She didn't argue or try to convince them. She just didn't need to fix them. She understood they were hurting and afraid. She felt them. She stayed with them. Because understanding does open the door to compassion. And you know, compassion creates the conditions for trust. And trust creates the conditions for release. And then release creates the conditions for home. And home is where the transformation actually happens. And you know, the gardener finally understood something quite beautiful. Those little roots were never trying to stop her transformation. They were just trying to protect the tree. The problem wasn't the roots, the problem was the broken relationship. And as the gardener returned with compassion and appreciation and caring and attention, you know, the conditions in the tree began to change. The nervous system, it no longer experienced judgment. It experienced relationship and connection. It no longer experienced abandonment. It experienced presence. It no longer experienced pressure. Instead, it experienced love, staying. And you know, one day, the gardener noticed something quite remarkable. The little roots were no longer gripping so tightly, not because she forced them to let go or that they suddenly decided to trust, but because they no longer felt alone and rejected. They no longer felt responsible for carrying the entire tree. They finally sensed what had always been true. There was a deeper root feeding them all along. Love was the real power, and they no longer had to carry the tree by themselves, not forcing, fixing, or convincing, or needing to let go, but by creating the internal conditions through the relationship where holding on isn't necessary anymore. See, that's the secret to release, because love is the power, and everything else, let's say, is just learning to come home. And perhaps this is what the tree of transformation has been trying to show us all along, you know? Shadow is where the relationship is broken, and relationship is the bridge back. Not information or insight, and not even spiritual truth, but relationship and connection. Because understanding opens the door to compassion. Compassion creates the conditions for trust, and trust creates the conditions for release. And release creates the conditions for home. Again, and home is where transformation happens. So I hope this story, which reveals the pathway that leads back to transformation from your survival system to your powerful, authentic self, I hope it's given you exactly what you needed to hear today. So let this settle deep within you. You know, I invite you to ponder, what little roots might you have a broken relationship with? Because you know, acknowledging this truth will begin to set you free. I want to tell you one last little secret. As within, so without. So you might consider what close relationships might you have lost a connection within your life as well. So if you know someone who is struggling with needing to let something go in their life, please share this message with them. And if you'd like to learn more about what these transformational trees are actually sharing, please watch the series Expanding Beyond Survival Identity. And I left the link for that in the title description below. So know that I bless the work that you're doing in this beautiful sacred art of becoming. And you know, your soul thanks you too. So until next time, bye for now.